From IBMTV, International Broadcast Media, this is your report from Washington. There are 26 days and counting. Trump called an abrupt end to negotiations with Democrats over additional COVID-19 relief. Trump tweeted he asked Senator McConnell to direct all his focus before the election into confirming his U.S. Supreme Court nominee, Amy Coney Barrett. Quote, I've instructed my representatives to stop negotiating until after the election when, immediately after I win, we will pass a major stimulus bill that focuses on hardworking Americans and small businesses. Hours later, Trump took to Twitter again and called on Congress to send him a, quote, standalone bill for stimulus checks. Trump then called on Congress to immediately approve $25 billion for the airlines. And then Trump called on Congress to approve a $135 billion paycheck protection program to help small businesses. Pelosi has generally rejected taking a piecemeal approach to COVID relief. The collapse means that Trump and down-ballot Republicans will face re-election without delivering aid to voters, with millions facing the threat of eviction. Endangered Republican Susan Senator Collins said, quote, waiting until after the election to reach an agreement on the next COVID-19 relief package is a huge mistake, end quote. Biden slammed Trump's move. Quote, make no mistake, if you are out of work, if your business is closed, if your child's school is shut down, if you're seeing layoffs in your community, Donald Trump decided today that none of it matters to him. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell warned that the economic recovery remains fragile without further economic stimulus. Stocks dropped suddenly on Wall Street after Trump ditched the negotiations. The Dow swung instantly from a gain of about 200 points to a loss of 300 points, a 500-point swing. Powell made clear that too little support, quote, would lead to a weak recovery, creating unnecessary hardships for households and businesses. While the stock market has clawed much of its way back after cratering in the early weeks of the crises, unemployment stands at 7.9%, and the nearly 10 million jobs that remain lost since the start of the pandemic exceed the number that the nation shed during the entire 2008 and 2009 Great Recession. Senator McConnell told reporters on Capitol Hill he supported Trump's decision. Next, all eyes are on the vice presidential debate. Vice President Pence and his Democratic challenger, Senator Kamala Harris, are poised to meet for a debate that will offer starkly different visions for a country confronting escalating crises. The face-off in Salt Lake City is the most highly anticipated vice presidential debate in recent memory. For Harris, the debater's highest profile opportunity to vocalize how Biden would stabilize the U.S. economy, especially when it comes to resolving the pandemic and addressing racial injustice. Ultimately, though, the debate is a chance for the voters to decide whether Pence and Harris are in a position to step into the presidency at a moment's notice. It's hardly a theoretical question, as the 74-year-old Trump combats the virus, and Biden, at 77, would become the oldest person to become president if he's elected. While the debate will likely cover a range of topics, the virus will be at the forefront. Pence and Harris will appear on stage exactly 12.25 feet apart, separated by plexiglass barriers. Separately, Biden has raised questions about whether he will participate in his next scheduled debate with Trump, telling reporters on Tuesday, quote, I think if he still has COVID, then we shouldn't have a debate. In other news, the Food and Drug Administration released guidelines yesterday that make it nearly inconceivable for a COVID vaccine to hit the market before Election Day. The White House's Office of Management and Budget approved the new guidelines after 2 weeks of opposition from the administration. 4 vaccines in the United States are in the final stage of testing. In a sign of the times, and that it's 2020, Tasmanian devils, the carnivorous marsupials whose feisty, frenzied eating habits won the animal's cartoon fame, have returned to mainland Australia for the first time in some 3,000 years. Tasmanian devils, which were once called satanic flesh lovers, went extinct in mainland Australia before the arrival of the Europeans. Finally, the current COVID death toll from Johns Hopkins is over 210,909 American souls lost and 1,050,371 global souls lost, again with no end in sight. That is your report for October 7, 2020 from IBM TV, International Broadcast Media, smart television for a smarter global community. From dictatorships to democracies around the world, good morning, good afternoon, good night. I'm Bill Trezevant.